Welcome to Sports Insider here on cleveland.com, all by myself today. No Dan Lobby, just me, Chris Fedor. For the next 25-30 minutes, we'll talk all things Cleveland sports. We'll hit on the Cavs. NBA draft is tonight, 7 o'clock in New York. So we'll talk to our Cavs beat reporters Chris Haynes and Joe Vardon about that. Also, decisions set to come from J.R. Smith. Kevin Love opted out of his contract. What does that mean for their future with the Cavs? We'll talk about those things as well. Terrell Pryor, a new member of the Cleveland Browns. We'll chat with one of our Browns beat reporters about that. And we might get you some memorabilia information when it comes to MLB All-Star Fan Fest. That's coming up throughout the show as well. Any questions, any comments, go to the comment section at the bottom of the post. We'll try and sprinkle those in throughout. But right now, let's bring on our first guest, Chris Haynes. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm doing all right. Fedor, thanks for having me on your show, man.
Oh, you got it. It is my show today, going solo. I don't know what they're doing here. I don't know why they trusted me with this show, Chris.
Hey, well, hey, man, you're doing an awesome job, Fedor, and I'm just glad and happy for you that somebody else is recognizing the challenge.
Chris, for 3 of the last 4 years, the Cavs have had the #1 overall pick, and fans have debated, Derek Williams versus Kyrie Irving, Anthony Bennett versus, well, everybody. And then, of course, last year, Andrew Wiggins versus Jabari Parker. Tonight, the 24th pick, so not as much intrigue when it comes to that pick, but still it seems like an opportunity for them to get maybe a role player, somebody to boost the bench that was inconsistent this year.
Yeah, I think there is an opportunity if the Cavs keep the pick. And I don't think that's the case, but assuming they keep the pick, there is some guys that I think can make an upgrade at the point guard position or the wing position as a backup. And I like a couple guys. Delon Wright out of Utah, a 6'5" point guard. I covered his brother, in Portland, Terrell Wright. And I used to talk to Delon, I talked to his little brother when he come to games every now and then. Just have some basketball conversation with him. And he has a really high basketball IQ. A lot of that probably stems from his brother playing in the league for so many years, but he's a real intriguing prospect. There's a couple other guys that I like, but I definitely do think there is a position for the Cavs to upgrade that position if they do keep the pick.
Do you get the sense, though, as the draft gets closer, Chris, that they're going to make this pick for them, or they're going to make this pick for another team, trade the rights of this player, maybe package it along with Brendan Haywood, something like that?
I ultimately believe, whether they package it with Haywood or not, that this pick will probably be traded away.
Okay.
I just think in the state that the team is in right now, it's win-now mode. Yes, there can be some value had at that position, but it's still at that number 24 spot. But it's still, you have to remember this is a rookie who has to go through rookie curves and things of that nature. So, I have a hard time believing they'll keep it.
All right, so the bigger news then, obviously, is what's going to happen in free agency with the Cavs. They've got 3 restricted free agents, guys with options. What can you tell us about the latest when it comes to J.R. Smith? There's been some confusion when it comes to J.R. here.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to opt out. His deadline's 11:59 tonight.
Okay.
I had that mixed up earlier last week. Him and Love mixed up. Love was yesterday. But I think Love is not a fan. It's not a thing. JR will opt out. It's just a matter of when today. And still, as of 5 minutes ago, the Cavaliers haven't been notified yet what JR is going to do. He has to submit the paperwork saying that he's terminating the season of next year. If he doesn't send them any paperwork by that deadline, then that year is automatically granted for him. So expect him to let them know sometime today. I mean, it probably is, being as 11:59, it can happen after the draft, before the draft. So, it'll drop sometime today. But I expect him to opt out. And I think with Kevin Love opting out, there's no other team that can offer him $5 million, $100 plus a year. 5 years, $100 million plus a year. So it's in his best interest financially to re-sign with the Cavs. But with that being said, he's going to have to weigh the pros and cons of sacrificing again and step into a similar role that he had last year. He didn't take too well to the sacrifice that he had to make. So he has to weigh all those options.
When you talk about Kevin Love, he has said all of the right things. He has said that he wants to be back in Cleveland. He was asked straight out, do you expect to be starting for the Cavs opening night next year? He said yes, absolutely. Do you get the sense that he still feels like Cleveland is his best destination this offseason?
I don't know. You've been talking about Houston for a while, and now there talks of them being trying to put themselves into the LaMarcus Aldridge sweepstakes. Mm-hmm. I'll say this. Look, players say what they need to say. Okay. I remember a couple of years ago when I was reporting about LaMarcus Aldridge not wanting to be in Portland. Everybody jumped on me. Fans tend to do that. Whenever you report something that they don't want to hear, they'll jump on you, say you're lying or this. I reported LaMarcus wanted out. I reported his agents met with the general manager, Neil O'Shea, and tried to find out some trade scenarios, try to get him out of Portland. And then LaMarcus comes out and on the record and says, hey, he's happy in Portland. He wants to re-sign back with him. Now, he's in a situation where he can leave now, and he now reports all that he's 99.9% sure that he's leaving Portland. So, with that being said, players say what they need to say at the time being to get by. And then when it's really time to put some action to it, that's when things tend to go the other way. So I think Kevin Love is going to look around. I think he owes it to himself to do that, and he has a right to do that. To ask me if I think where he's leaning, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you where he's leaning because money speaks. I would just say that about the Cavs. And Cavs, they're confident that he's going to come back. So we'll see. I've known Love for a while, being in Portland, Oregon, knowing his family for a while. I've had a relationship with the guy, so I understand how he thinks. And, and that's what leads me to believe that I can't jump to conclusions and try to guess, what he's ultimately going to do.
Going to the Cavs side of things, they got within 2 games of an NBA championship without him. LeBron was somebody who really pushed for him last offseason. Do you get the sense that LeBron James and the Cavs want Kevin back?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The Cavs for a couple of reasons. Number one, they traded away their franchise player Andrew Wiggins for. They didn't do it for a 1-year rental. And Kevin Love helped. They wouldn't have made it to the finals without Kevin Love. Mm-hmm. And I know they made this run, to get to the point where they were in the finals. But I'm talking about just playing unbelievable ball up into the postseason. Kevin Love had a big part to do with that, stretching the defense, opening up the floor for Kyrie and Kevin Love, keeping the defense honest. And that's something that, they couldn't do with Tristan Thompson on the floor. So he's a very valuable component to this team. And LeBron James understands that as well. These guys may not see eye to eye off the court. They may not hang out, but LeBron's no dummy. He knows the difference that Love makes on the court when he's playing alongside him. So, everybody wants him back within that organization. And I think they're going to do everything they can to make sure that happens.
Now, another guy that everybody is monitoring is Tristan Thompson. He's a restricted free agent. Obviously, David Griffin has already said that they're going to extend a qualifying offer to Tristan. When it comes to him, what kind of price tag are we looking at here this offseason, Chris?
Well, look, it's going to have to be an upgrade from the 13, I believe he turned down, 12 or 13 he turned down.
Yep.
Beginning of the season. So you're looking at, just by that alone, you're looking at $15 million a year. Oof. That's what it calls for you. They're not going to take anything less, and they're not going to take what was offered, to them in October. So that's just the simple fact of the matter. And is he worth it? Well, look, he's worth what the team is willing to pay. Yeah. And he's shown in the playoffs that he can be a big contributor to a good team. He can be. Will he work on a Utah Jazz team or a subpar team? No, he probably is not going to have as much value. But when you got star players, dominant players on the team, and then you add a Tristan Thompson type player who's going to get you extra possessions for those guys, that is extremely valuable, and it brings so much more to the team and the table. So I expect him to get paid, and does he deserve it? Hey, like I said, he deserves whatever he gets, and I think he's going to get more than what was offered to him in October.
All right, Chris, man, good stuff. I'll see you tonight for the draft. It's at 7 o'clock, and we'll be at Cleveland Clinic Courts seeing what the Cavs do at pick number 24, bud.
All right. See you tonight, Peter.
All right, there he is. 1/3 of our Cavs beat reporting team, Chris Haynes, joining us here on Sports Insider. Tom Reed from the Cleveland Browns beat. He is going to join us coming up in a little bit, but first it'll be Joe Vardon, another part of our Cavs beat reporting team. And Joe had an interesting story about just Rich Paul and some of his clients and what their future could be. We're getting closer and closer to the NBA draft. Again, it is tonight, but this time the Cavs have the 24th pick as opposed to number 1. Let's go to Joe Vardon right now. What's going on, Joe?
Chris, man, it's been too long.
I know. What have you been doing during this mini break that you've had, Joe?
Well, there's a new swing set in the backyard that didn't build itself, and, there's a story here and there, but just kind of reacclimating to life post-finals,
What do you expect tonight with the draft? It's the 24th pick. There are some people that think that the Cavs are going to trade this pick after actually making this pick. Some people are starting to say maybe they're going to go with a European player, see if they can draft him and stash him overseas. What are you expecting tonight?
Well, I'm in the camp of the make the pick for someone else as part of a trade. I mean, I certainly know that is what they want to do and what they're trying to do. They feel like they have a good piece with Brendan Haywood's contract, which is not guaranteed after a certain point. They have to make the pick, though, before they can make that trade. So, for instance, you could almost see them drafting a power forward like a Montrez, Harrell, even though they don't need power forwards at all on this team, as part of a trade to be executed later. I just, the Cavs are in a situation where their roster is pretty good, and when healthy, it's really good. And drafting a guy in most cases wouldn't help them right away, and that's what they need. I mean, they need to win right now. So I believe they will try to do that rather than, build for something down the line.
Cavs have already picked up the team option on Timofey Mozgov. J.R. Smith is expected to opt out, become a free agent. Kevin Love has already opted out. None of those things necessarily surprising, especially when it comes to the Cavs. Even General Manager David Griffin said he expected these kinds of things to happen. When it comes to Love, though, Joe, how concerned are you that he would go elsewhere this offseason?
Chris, I mean, we're asked this all the time. I mean, most signs, I think, point to him coming back. When I just consider all of the variables, I don't think there are a whole bunch of good fits for him elsewhere. I mean, the Houston one is somewhat interesting, but, I mean, they're talking about, LaMarcus Aldridge, and even there, Kevin is not option number 1. I think that Kevin had a hard time in Cleveland at times. I also think that he has said everything that he has said suggests that he will be back, and the only out that he really has now is that Tristan played so well and they played so well with Kyrie but without Kevin. So that would be like an out. He could say, well, this team obviously is better in one, better constructed with one in one way, and it would be better for me and the team if we parted. But I just don't see that. So that's a long way for me to say that I believe that he is coming back. But, it could be, as I said yesterday, it could be an annoying couple days for Cavs fans.
And the rumors continue to circulate around this team just like they did last offseason. It seems like it's going to be pretty wild again. One of the names that continues to be brought up here, Joe, is Dwayne Wade. Everybody understands the relationship that Dwayne Wade has with LeBron. Everybody understands that there's some things going on in Miami between Wade and the Heat organization. How feasible is it for the Cavs to acquire somebody like him in free agency? Is it at all?
I mean, I don't think so, and I almost think I saw you say this somewhere yesterday, and I agreed with it. I just, he's got 16-something on the table in Miami, and that's not enough, so he's going to take 3-something in Cleveland. I don't see it, you know, and that would be the second or third time, at least the second time, that he has passed up, you know, a considerable amount of money to make a decision, you know, to play somewhere. You know, at some point that's got to stop. I mean, he's getting older and his body's breaking down and his value is still high. He needs to cash in on that. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, and he's got what? He has 3 titles now. Yep. You know, so, I mean, how many millions of dollars does he want to spend, basically, that's what we're talking about here, of his own money to win a 4th? I don't know. I mean, he could probably end up, you know, in one of the LAs and do okay. You know, Dallas has some room. He could go there and be competitive. You know, I don't think he's going to win a championship in Miami, but I don't see this.
All right, Joe. Good stuff, man. I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you tonight for the draft, bud.
Sounds good. See ya.
There he is, Joe Vardon, joining us here on Sports Insider. Again, any questions, any comments, go to the comment section at the bottom of the post. The Browns have been in the news a little bit here recently as well. They've got mini camp that's going on. The rookie symposium is going on as well. But the Browns made an interesting free agency signing. They were awarded Terrell Pryor, and the Browns have said that he is going to try wide receiver as opposed to quarterback. And joining us right now to talk about that, one of our Browns beat reporters, Tom Reed. What's going on, Tommy?
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Tell me about Terrell Pryor. What's the appeal when it comes to the Browns? It seems like they've got a lot of wide receivers now, bud.
Yeah, you know, the thing that first strikes me when I think of Terrell Pryor, and again, I don't know if the guy can get to this level, but I think of Cordell Stewart, of what Cordell Stewart could have become in the NFL. Kind of taking some fans back some years, back in the late 90s with the Steelers, was kind of a guy who became a really valuable utility player, could do a little bit of everything. And when I look at Terrell Pryor, I don't see him as becoming an NFL starting quarterback. I think that ship has sailed if it really ever had a chance to begin with. Now, he's going to have to be able to catch the ball. One thing he's going to have to do is he's going to have to come in here and be able to catch the ball. Now, if he can do that, if he can establish himself as a, hey, we got to watch this guy here. You got to guard him. You got to be careful. Then I think it opens up things you can do with him. And don't forget, they're changing the rules this year with the extra points. It may inspire some teams to try some more 2-point conversions. Maybe you run him in under center there. He obviously is a big body, could maybe get across the goal line. So I'll be interested to see kind of how they use him.
How much of this signing had to do with the fact that John DeFilippo, a guy who was in Oakland with Terrell Pryor, is now here with the Browns as the offensive coordinator? And if that did have something to do with it, what does it tell you about the decision-making process when it comes to Mike Pettin and delegating to his coaching staff?
Yeah, I would have to think it had something to do with it. I mean, having been there and worked with him, he would certainly know the temperament of the player, whether he will take coaching, you know. And again, when you're coming into a big decision like this, and let's take them at their word, at least for right now, that he's coming here to be a wide receiver. DeFilippo should have some kind of idea whether this kid will be able to go ahead and do that and say, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to be looking over into the quarterback huddle, don't go in there right away. So I think he probably the Pettin is going to take his word that he can do this. Now, obviously, we saw a lot of that last year with Kyle Shanahan, but of course, Kyle Shanahan is an experienced NFL coordinator, and almost all the time, Pettin, acknowledges that that he's going to run the offense and have full sway over the offense. This year, I think Pettine's going to be more involved, but I think it is the idea that Pettine's not threatened by allowing his coordinators to have some input on stuff like that.
When it comes to Terrell Pryor, Tom, what would you say the Browns' expectations are for him?
Oh, I think they're low. I think they're just, let's see what he can do. I mean, again, we know the guy, the offensive coordinator knows the player. So there's some familiarity there. He's a big guy. And again, I keep going back to the idea of, if they can get the guy to catch passes, then he just, to me, becomes another little kind of a trick guy. You can run in there. You can run reverses with him. He's obviously, once he gets in the open field, he's a big guy that can run. If he can catch some passes, all the better. Again, I keep going back to this whole idea of Cordell Stewart back in the late 90s when he first, made to the Pro Bowl as, to my knowledge, one of the last guys who just made it to the Pro Bowl as an athlete. He did a little bit of everything, and that did not include special team stuff. So, maybe Pryor can be that type of player for them. We'll see. I mean, again, it's a very low risk to no risk to take a chance on the guy. And if Pryor's willing to, if he wants to stay in the league, he's probably going to have to try things like this.
So coming into this offseason, Tom, so much of the conversation has been about the quarterback spot, Josh McCown versus Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel coming from rehab. More conversation has centered on just the changes in the offense and what can be expected there. Somebody that I think is kind of flying under the radar here is Justin Gilbert. If you remember, this is the guy that the Browns used a top 10 draft pick on just last year. He was the other first-round pick along with Johnny Manziel. What are the expectations when it comes to Justin Gilbert? What have you seen in the growth of Justin so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's been okay. Now, he missed the last couple of days of the mandatory minicamp with some kind of family personal issue. So it'll be interesting when he gets back and to see where he fits in. They're deep. This is the one position on the field where they are very deep, and there's going to be competition. And he's certainly doesn't look like he'll start out. If Trayvon Williams is healthy and is available, he's probably going to start, and we'll kind of see how many guys, the defensive backs, where he fits in the rotation. I think they still think that there's something there. And don't forget, Trayvon Williams is, 32, 33 years old. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is they're not by any means are they giving up on him, but they're, again, just trying to make sure that they, let's work him in a little bit slower. As you guys know, the two positions, I think, in the NFL that are the toughest on young players is quarterbacks and cornerbacks. And for kids that went through a lot last year, they want him obviously to improve and get him on the field more. But they don't want to, again, overwhelm him right now. That's why they probably went out and got Trayvon Williams when Buster Skrine left.
Really quick, the situation with Tashaun Gibson, he's basically saying that he's going to bet on himself this year. Should that be a concern for the Browns, that they might lose him following this year?
Well, they can't necessarily lose him as long as they want to keep him. He'll be here for one more year, right? I mean, they'll just sign they'll sign him to the franchise. They'll franchise him. They'll be back for one more season. You would hope, I think, for all the parties involved that they just get this done. To me, I don't mean to take a side of the player here, but I think he's done it for 2 years. I think he's really good, and I think he's going to get better. And the other thing is I do believe this is a really good secondary, and if they can improve the pass rush at all, he may be better this year, and his asking price is going to go maybe even higher than it is right now. So if I'm the Browns, I really think about trying to get this thing resolved before they get too deep into training camp.
Tom, I appreciate you joining me today. Thanks, bud.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
There he is, Tom Reed, one half of our Browns beat reporter team, joining us here on Sports Insider. The interesting thing to me when it comes to Terrell Pryor, the first thing that I thought about when the Browns signed him, I thought about tight end. Because I look at the wide receiver spot and I say, all right, they're probably going to keep, 6, maybe 7? They've got a lot of different bodies there. You've got Brian Hartline, you've got Dwayne Bowe, you've got the little guys and Andrew Hawkins and Taylor Gabriel. And I just don't know where he would fit. You also have the rookie, Maley. So I'm wondering, where exactly is his fit when it comes to wide receiver? And would it be better maybe, because the Browns lost a guy like Jordan Cameron and they didn't replace him with anything that's proven, let's put it that way. Would it be better if they just tried him at tight end, use that size, use that versatility, maybe a mismatch? But then again, you have to ask yourself, can he do the little things that you want from a tight end? We don't know if Terrell Pryor can run routes. We don't know necessarily if he can block. We don't know if he can catch the football. And when you've got a quarterback like Josh McCown and Johnny Manziel, guys that, in my opinion, need all the help that they can get. They need guys around them that can help elevate them. You know, what is the future for this kind of guy? So I'm kind of with Tom Reed here. I would actually be surprised at this point if Terrell Pryor makes the team. And to me, he kind of has practice squad written all over him. And of course, that's a danger because then somebody can kind of pluck that guy from the practice squad. But that's how I'm leaning here, is I'd be surprised at this point if Terrell Pryor is somebody that is going to make this team, just given the numbers game when you talk about wide receiver. And the Browns don't have that guy at wide receiver, that standout wide receiver. But what they do have is bodies, and they have numbers. So it should be interesting to follow this throughout the offseason, and we'll just kind of see what happens. Sports Insider here on cleveland.com right now. Let's go to our final guest. Let's talk some Tribe. The Indians finally did it. They finally beat the Detroit Tigers. All it took was Justin Verlander having a back issue and the Tigers, for some reason, taking Miguel Cabrera out of the lineup. But nonetheless, the Indians got a win against the Detroit Tigers. They avoid the sweep. And joining us to talk about that and much, much more, Paul Hoynes. What's going on, Hoynesy?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Doing great. So what was Detroit thinking there? Were they just feeling bad for the Indians and said, you know what, Miguel Cabrera has tormented you so much, we're going to take him out of the lineup?
I guess so. That's a Brad Osmus. You know, if it comes down, I was thinking about this. If Detroit's season comes down to one game at the end of the year where they either make the postseason or not, I would imagine Brad Osmus is going to think back to this afternoon in June and wonder why he didn't put Cabrera in there.
I'd like to send Brad Osmus a basket of muffins for taking that guy out of the lineup. I think the Indians would like to do the same thing, Hoynesy. I mean, Miguel Cabrera, if you take out his Indians numbers, he's only batting .294. It's incredible how he's mashed against the Tribe.
Yeah, it's, you know, he's inside every pitcher's head on the Indian staff. He's just, I've never seen one guy intimidate a whole pitching staff, and that's what he's done. They can't get him out. It doesn't matter how they pitch him. It's gotten so bad that if they give up a single to right or a single to middle, you know, up the middle to Cabrera, I mean, they're considering that a victory. So it's gone from you don't get the guy out, you just either you walk him or you give up a single. You know, limit the damage.
The Indians have tried to do things recently, Hoynesy, when it comes to getting some kind of spark with the offense. They've brought up Francisco Lindor. They've brought up Gio Urshela. They've changed the lineup. They've mixed some different guys in some certain spots. Is there anything else that they can do to kind of jumpstart an offense that has been struggling here recently?
You know, they're getting a spark from the top of the lineup. Jason Kipnis, you know, is leading the league in hitting in just about every other category. Right now, he's probably the best player in the American League, if not baseball. So he's giving them a spark. You look for a spark from the leadoff hitter. They're just not doing anything behind them. You know, Gomes has been hurt. Brantley's been hurt. And I don't know what else you can do. You know, they've tried to mix and match, as you said. They've dropped Bourne down. They've dropped Santana down. They put Murphy in the cleanup spot. You know, they put Rayburn in the cleanup spot. Right now, nothing they're doing is working. And you know, last month they were, you know, they scored the second most runs in the American League. This month, you know, they rank 14th in runs scored in the American League. And I don't know if you just chalk that up to the inconsistencies of baseball, or you know, this is just not a very good lineup right now.
So you bring up Michael Brantley. Last year, he's in the MVP conversation. This year, he's not even the Indians' best hitter. Everybody knows how smooth that swing is. Everybody knows how talented he is. Can you just chalk it up? I don't want to say that he's struggling, but can you just chalk up what's going on with Michael Brantley to the fact that he is still dealing with the back issue? I
think so. I think he's dealt with it since the first day of spring training. Yeah. When he got there, and I think when you see a player like Brantley that has been so consistent over the last 2, 3, 4 years, and he's not doing what he normally does, it's got to be an injury. It's got to be something that's holding him back, or it's like kind of the Jason Kipnis syndrome where from last year, where you get hurt, you come back, and you've compensated somewhat in your swing to get to a place where you can play and it doesn't hurt. And you've changed some things, and I think that's what's going on with Brantley right now.
Hoynes, I knew it was going to take time for Francisco Lindor, and I didn't want to set my expectations too high. But for me personally, it was so good to see him hit that first career home run yesterday, because I hadn't been wowed by anything that he was doing. I guess there was a little part of me that felt like he was going to be a spark, maybe in the same way that Danny Salazar was at the end of the season for the Indians. And he wasn't that. He wasn't doing those things. He wasn't showing me those flashes. For me, I needed to see that home run yesterday.
Yeah, that was a nice swing. And the thing is, he's not a home run hitter, So yeah. You can't hang your hat on that. I think you hang your hat on the way he plays defense. I think he's in a tough spot hitting second. They're putting him up there. I think they're looking for him to provide that spark. And you kind of drop him in the number 2 hole right there. I think that's tough for a rookie. I think you put a little pressure on the guy, and you don't see what he can really do. So I'm anxious to see on this road trip coming up, just if he settles into that spot, because it's going to be a tough trip. I mean, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh. They're playing 3 teams with winning records that are in the race. Mm-hmm. And have done, in Baltimore and Tampa Bay have taken 2 out of 3 from the Indians. So I think we're going to see him tested against some of the best competition in baseball. So it's going to be interesting to see how he responds.
So I know it's not a huge thing in the grand scheme of things, Hoynesy, but I pulled up the AL All-Star voting results at the moment the other day, and all I saw was Kansas City Royal after Kansas City Royal after Kansas City Royal. And look, they've had a quality season. They got to the World Series last year, and there are certain guys on that roster that are deserving of a nod. But when you've got a guy like Omar Infante leading the second base category over a guy like Jason Kipnis or Jose Altuve, at what point does Major League Baseball say, it's time that we change our voting process? And what, if anything, can they do to remedy this situation that's going on right now with the Royals starting the entire All-Star team?
Yeah, I mean, the Kansas City fans have taken the system and made it work for them. Yeah. They've created, I guess you get 35 votes, everybody gets 35 votes, vote 35 times, and then you create a different website and vote 35 more times, or a different email address. Yeah. So, they've jobbed the system, and I would imagine it'll change. And it's going to be interesting. I don't know if you're Rob Manfred, the first-year commissioner, do you step in and say, no, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. This guy's going to start. This guy's going to start. The All-Star game is kind of a conundrum. It's always been for the fans. It's the fans' game, so that's why they vote. But now with it also dictates home field advantage for the World Series. So it's almost like baseball is trying to have it both ways, and I don't think they can do that. I mean, if you're going to do that, so they're kind of stuck with the situation on their hands. But I would imagine this thing is going to change. I don't think they'll be able to. There's not going to be a fan base that's going to be able to work the system like Kansas City has, in the coming years. I mean, a long time ago in the 50s, the late 50s, the Reds did the same thing. Cincinnati fans did the same thing, and that caused changes in the voting. So I would imagine baseball will respond appropriately.
Hoynesy, great stuff, man. I appreciate you joining me. Thanks so much.
Okay, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right, there he is, Paul Hoynes, and that'll conclude our show today. Thanks to Chris Haynes, Joe Vardon, covering the Cavs side of things. Got some good information there on Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, and of course, tonight's draft, 7 o'clock. Continue to check out all the coverage, cleveland.com/Cavs. Also, thanks to Tom Reed, our Browns beat reporter, for the information on Terrell Pryor. We'll talk to you next week. Again, until then, get ready for the NBA draft. Cavs pick number 24, and then the wild free agency frenzy is going to begin for the Cavs as well. We'll talk to you next week here on cleveland.com. Later.